The name of the game is presented by Bravo, the marketing arm of Ash Brokerage Corporation, the practice enhancement company. Welcome to Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. Hi everyone, I'm your host Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money gamer extraordinaire. America's small business is the backbone of the economy. Every small business owner knows they need to work on their business and not in their business. But how do they do that? And on today's show, we're featuring the architect of the blueprint for tomorrow, special guest Nate Sachs, one of the country's leading business consultants and top financial advisors. Nate knows how to increase the value of your business and position it in the marketplace for sale. His proprietary process can really make a difference on how much you'll get for your business. In the G segment, we're going to get our game face on and confront the problems of small business. In the A segment, we're going to assemble our A team, our special ops experts in business applications. In the M segment, our money mentor Nate Sachs will present his business winning game plan. In the E segment, we'll help you execute your plan and position your business for sale. Well, welcome to the show, Nate.
Thank you, Steve.
I really appreciate you coming to our show. And you know, we have so many business owners watching our show today. And I couldn't think of anybody else I'd want on my show than you, because you have really cracked the code, in my opinion, on how business transition and how business should work. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of these numbers, though. I looked at this number that you had in your data, and it's huge. 7.5 million of non-farm businesses in the U.S. That is huge.
That's going to double by 2015.
Now, if I have 15 million then, who's going to take care of all these people?
That's a good question.
Wow. And I'm also looking at 2.4 million business owners who are 55 and older. I mean, the baby boomers right now are going to be retiring, they're going to be selling their business, they're going to be in transition. And according to some of the statistics I read from your book, it looks like it's 4.5 million of those owners are 45.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's huge.
It's big, very big, Steve.
So tell me about this. When we're talking about ownership and change and some of the things that we're talking about, are they prepared to transfer their business?
No, they're not. Most business owners are working in their business, they don't work on it.
Now, what do you mean by that?
The minutia, payroll, hiring, firing, marketing, getting more business in. To sit back and do strategic planning, long-range planning, not on the radar.
Well, if they're not doing it, who's supposed to do it?
If they're not doing it, no one's doing it.
So it's not getting done at all.
It's not getting done at all.
Well, you remember a lot of small businesses, whether you're working out of your home or you have a small executive suite, or there's businesses that have 20 to 30, 40 employees.
Or more.
Or more, and they're banking on their business to be their retirement.
And so are all the families that are working for them.
So how do I make that segue from my traditional in the business, now I want to work on my business?
You have to hold yourself accountable. You got to find a process, a program, a way to make that paradigm change, because it's a paradigm change. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone.
Can I self-police that?
No.
So how do I bring myself into accountability? Because it's really for my own good.
Yes, it is. It's, again, that and the good of the business and the good of the employees working for the business.
When I look at 40% of the U.S. business are facing the kind of ownership issues that you're talking about, and those changes, there's going to be all types of valuations going on. Everybody always asks me, Steve, how do I calculate my goodwill? How do I calculate the valuation of my business? And you're saying, wait, before you do any of that, I need to put you on a couch and almost kind of shrink your head in this regard.
Absolutely. What's going on in your heart and your soul right now? The majority of business owners over-evaluate their business, and they realize that beauty is not in the eye of the beholder, it's in the eye of the buyer. Your business, Steve, is only worth what you can get for today.
When you say about valuation, because we're now doing the first part, which is I have to do almost a personal profile on the client.
Absolutely.
So if I'm a small business owner, and I am, and I know you are, we're trying to prepare our business to run without us. And I tell you, I have to say, when I first read your material, I don't know if I can do that.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. We become the franchise player. We brand ourselves. We don't always brand the business. And most businesses are not runnable or sellable without the owner.
I was really struck by one of your concepts, and I think most of our business owners that are watching this show today are in the same place I am when I say to you, I have people coming in to help me in their areas of expertise, Nate, and I've noticed that sometimes I don't want to do a full-blown 15, 20 different modelings and planning tactical issues. I just want to build a closet.
I call that priority paralysis. I want you to be on my agenda, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor, not yours.
And when you say that, and last time I remember somebody coming in and saying, Steve, we want to look at your business, we want to go through it A to Z, and when I do that, he gave me 15 to 20 things, And first of all, he didn't prioritize it, and I was overwhelmed.
And you chose to do nothing. You were drinking
I
water
did
out of a
nothing.
fire hose, Steve.
When I think about all I want to do is build a closet, is that okay when I want to begin the program like you're talking about, the blueprints for tomorrow?
First, you got to identify what are the demons that are keeping you awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. What are those demons that are chasing around that room? And how are we going to slay those demons?
Now, you have a book out called Slaying.
Was that a good segue?
A perfect segue.
Slaying the Demons, How to Be in Business Today and Sleep at Night.
That's only an 81-page read. I knocked it out, and I didn't have to worry about leaving the light on when I was reading it either.
That's true.
I think you could really get a lot out of it. And if you say, Steve, I'd really like to read Nate's book, just go ahead and write me at Steve at the name of the game, and I'll give it to you.
Be my pleasure.
Yeah. When we're talking about it, I'm trying to look at this mentality where what is chewable? What can I take on as a business owner? What would be the first thing as you enter you told me, this is so shocking, most business owners are ready for a 2-hour gauntlet meeting, a planning session. But you say, no, the first contact is only probably 20 minutes to talk about
In
this.
my program, 20 minutes, because I know 2 facts that are cast in stone. If you've not gotten a business owner's attention in 3 minutes, you're not going to get it. And by the 12th minute, maybe 13th minute, they have already begun to, if nothing else, multitask in their mind. They crave brevity. Business owners today do not want 2- and 3-hour meetings, 35-page reports, Excel spreadsheets. Those days are gone, Steve.
So really, our whole society is so ADD and so short, and like you said, in the spirit of brevity,
Yes.
that we've really come into where we have to get to it and find the jugular vein issue that's really keeping him up at night.
And go for it.
When I think about that, I'm trying to consider, you have 14 different ways to attack this in your blueprints, 14 different blueprints.
14 different blueprints.
When I think about that, one of those blueprints, what's the one that you think that you start out more than any other blueprint that usually fits the vast majority of business owners?
I'd say there's a couple. There's not one. The one that comes to mind is premature death. If I die, what happens to my business, my family? What if I want to get out? Can I become a passive owner or must I sell it? And also, how do I lock in my key people?
If you want more information on business valuation or a free valuation from one of our top strategic business partners, just email me, Steve at thenameofthegame.tv. When we come back from the break, Nate and I are going to address some of the business succession options for you and your company. And don't forget to take Nate's business survey. Just go out to www.blueprintsfortomorrow.com/sellability score. The survey will take about 13 minutes. Is your business worth 13 minutes? I bet it is. We'll be right back after the break.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of Index Universal Life, Ash Brokerage.
Welcome back to The Name of the Game. I'm Steve Savant with Nate Sachs, founder of Blueprints for Tomorrow. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas you hear on the show, always consult your tax advisor or legal counsel. Coming up in the A segment, we're addressing business succession options from our inventory of experts with our A-team authors from Backroom Technician and Advices Company. In our A segment, we're going to use all our special ops teams, which have authored some of the best documents on business succession planning. And if you want any of this, you can just order it at Steve at thenameofthegame.tv. Well, Nate, we're back here. Now, what are we doing here? We're talking about laying out the number one trap. We mentioned it before, a regular business owner says, I just want to build a closet. I just need a little bit of help here. I don't want a full anthology. I don't want a monster plan. I don't want to do all my plans, estate planning, retirement planning, business succession, key man. I don't want to do all this at one time. I just want what I need now, my agenda. I just want to build a closet. That's what we were talking about at the break.
Exactly right, versus build a whole new house.
Right. But when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the 3 problems that always entrap and ensnare a business owner. Let's walk through problem 1.
Okay, problem 1 is that most business owners have put far too much wealth in their business. They take care of their employees, their vendors, their customers, their clients, not themselves. They're a house of cards, Steve, in case of their death or disability, creating some real exposure for those that they care about. They've got a handful of keep-for-lifers. Those guys you really want to see stay till the end, not being locked in properly. Assets that are not protected in case of a lawsuit. If they have an estate plan, it's usually outdated. They have left more written directions for babysitters. when they've gone out of town in the past, when they've had young children, and they've written down for their widows they won't talk to again. And the soft issues, they've lost some balance.
Well, when you say that they've left so much money in their business, what do you mean by that?
Everything they have is that business, or the building that business is in. That's their retirement, that's their savings, that's their future, that's their educational funds for their kids. It's all there. A lot's riding on the success of that business. Too much so, in my opinion.
And in your opinion, and according to your blueprint for business succession, a lot of this is really an exposure issue.
Tremendous exposure. Over 15 million lawsuits last year.
For small business.
Absolutely.
Well, let's look at this business. You're talking about this number 2. I'm looking at business that doesn't produce full financial potential. I keep thinking of, I don't know what potential is, but in your program, you kind of give us an idea of real value that could be achieved if you're willing to walk down one of these blueprints.
Your business must be sustainable. It must be sustainable in the point where it can provide income for many, many years, even many, many years after you're done working. Can you sell it to an outside party? Can you transition it to an inside group, family, key employees, management team? Or can you put it on passive mode where you come to work when you want to come to work, not because you have to come to work?
Well, let's say if I wanted to do, I like your word passive investor. We might have to talk about that in the next segment. But when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at things that keep men and women who are business owners up at night. They just lie awake in their bed staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. What are some of the things that you've been doing this 10 years in this specific area of helping business owners? That's right, this program. And you have over 500 advisors that have helped you with this because you're all over the United States.
And I worked with over 2,000 businesses.
Yeah. So tell me, what's keeping 2,000 people up at night?
4 what ifs. What if I don't want to do this any longer? What are my options? What if something would happen to me? What happened to my family and to my business and the families that are depending upon that business? What if I lose key people? And what if I don't continue to improve cash flow and grow the company?
Well, talk about the first one.
Okay.
What if I lose? What if I lose something? What if I have a death or a disability, or I really have an impact? What happens to my beneficiaries?
Most important figure I want you to think about today, or fact: 80% of all businesses will die a natural death, without anybody seeing a penny from that. 80% of all businesses today will someday close their door, whether it's because of death, disability, adverse taxation, loss of key employees, the economy, lawsuits. 80%.
In your blueprint, you really work on the ability for the business owner to work themselves out of the central cog inside their business. They're no longer the franchise.
As John Warlow calls it, who wrote the book Built to Sell, most businesses are hub and spoke. The spokes only stay in place because the hub's there and the hub's the owner. The hub's gone, the spokes are gone. The owner's gone, the spokes are gone.
When you talk, I've noticed that you talk about transition. Many of our business owners are watching this show right now, are transitioning to people that they've worked with. A lot of their management team is going to take over, or maybe their children are going to take over. Their insider transition, kind of buy-sell or business
95% of transitions that do occur will be inside. 65% of the time, Steve, they'll be the wrong team. Someone that was on it should not have been. Someone that wasn't on it should have been. Half the time that inside transition will fail.
So we need to get the people that don't really belong off the wagon.
That's right.
And we need to make sure the people that are going to have a participation in the ongoing business, keeping it alive, keeping it moving into perpetuity, we need to pick those people and make sure they're in the right position.
Exactly right.
And your blueprint does this, right? It helps an owner really walk through the gauntlet of decision.
It gets them to look at their business as a business. Most of the people that we deal with own a business, but they don't run it like a business. They don't think like business owners.
That sounds so counterintuitive to me. When you say, I have a business person, and he doesn't know that he's working in a business.
So, well, it doesn't mean, I don't mean to come across that way, but he started out for a paycheck, a place to go, and a position. Now he's finding himself in a new business, and guess what? They don't come with owner's manuals.
They don't. In fact,
No instructions.
And some of these people started with scratch operations, and look what they are today.
They've accomplished a lot.
They have. If you want more information on these 4 business options or free valuation from one of our top strategic business partners, just email me at steve@thenameofthegame.tv. When we come back from the break, Nate's going to walk us through the basic concepts in using his blueprints for tomorrow. And don't forget to take Nate's survey. Just go out to www.blueprintsfortomorrow.com/sellability score. The survey will take about 13 minutes. Is your business worth 13 minutes? I bet it is. We'll be right back after the break.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of indexed universal life, Ash Brokerage.
Welcome back to The Name of the Game. I'm Steve Savant with Nate Sachs, founder of Blueprints for Tomorrow. And just a heads up, before moving forward with anything you hear on our show, always consult your tax advisor or legal counsel. Coming up in the M segment, we're going to map out Nate's blueprints for your business. In our M segment, of course, we have Nate Sachs with us, not only our advisor consultant, but our money mentor. This is our money mentor section, and welcome to it, Nate.
Thank you.
I want you to walk us through. You have 14 different blueprints, but I want to walk through the basic blueprint today, which is, of course, the sale of the business. I want you to walk through it, and I want to know, when you use this phrase, total, systemized business, systematized, I've never heard that phrase before. Talk about that.
You've got to be able to demonstrate to an outside buyer, Steve, they can buy the business without buying you. Because buyers, no owners, don't go with the deal. So I've got to look at that business if I'm an outsider and say, are there enough systems in place, enough processes in place, I can buy it and run it profitably without retaining the existing owner.
So I have to put systems and processes in to bring the value up so that when my seller looks at me, he knows this business could go on to perpetuity without the actual owner.
I want to buy two things. I want to buy your processes and systems, and I want to buy your key people.
How does that affect putting your business in a mode for growth? Because I think people really undervalue what you just said.
Not only do they undervalue it, but they don't appreciate the fact if they never sell it, but put some of these things in practice, it'll be a better business, a better run business, more profitable, more economical, more transparent.
I know when you say that we're trying to decentralize business owners from their business, it's kind of like telling them that they can't visit their children anymore. I mean, it's kind of hands-off.
Oh my goodness, the umbilical cord's very thick.
How do I make that transition? How can I convince our viewers today, this is really in your best interest and the best interest of the new buyer?
Well, if we can't convince them, they can't convince the buyer. Because I know one thing, that most business owners are great parents. They'll raise that business from an embryo to a young adult. They're lousy nannies. They won't babysit for somebody else. So if I can't convince myself I can get out, I can certainly not convince the new buyer that it's doable without me.
How important is it in your train of thought when you're talking about the sale of the business to make sure that you lock in key management?
Major asset. What we call the keep for lifers, those 2 or 3 or 4 people, 5 people you want to see stay till the very end. If I can't buy them, I'm not buying anything.
If the management, are they necessarily going to be the new owners?
Could be. On an inside transition, they could be part of the ownership. On an outside sale, I might give them a piece of it as the new owner. But either way, I want them there. Because without them, I have nothing.
Well, if I'm reading your blueprint right, if I have systems in place, processes in place, if I've put my business in a position to have growth mode and have my management team in, I have a very big opportunity to attract not just one good buyer, maybe several buyers.
That's the goal, have 3 or 4 buyers that want you at the same time. So you can control the terms, not the buyer.
When I think about it, everybody wants to receive maximum cash for the sale of their business. But in my experience of 30 years, most everybody settles for less.
Always, almost always.
So how can I reverse that trend? If I have a decent business and I want to get a little more bang for my buck, what do I need to do besides some of the things we've talked about already?
It's the same thing as when you go to sell a house. What's the first thing you do before you list it? You spruce it up. You paint it, you clean the carpet, you put some shrubbery in. Same thing. A business has got to be prepared for sale. If not, you're going to leave a lot of money on the table.
If a business owner buys everything we're talking about, which I think they should, because remember, this is the number one issue. How do I unwind? How do I detach?
It's
How
that
do I
liquidity
disconnect?
it's going to be that liquidity transaction, which is going to be the last one they have. It's got to be maximum one.
Well, if I want to leave my business, and what if I want to leave it at any time I want? I may want to stay, but I want to be able to go when I want to go, stay when I want to stay.
Call it passive. I want to come to work because I want to come to work, not because I have to. Can I come and go as I please? Almost look at this business as an investment arrow on my investment quiver. I want to own the milk and the cow.
I noticed that you said in your one of these bullet points, which I think is huge, it says, have a plan of what you should do for the rest of your life. Do I need a plan post-sale of my business?
Major. You cannot believe the psychological, emotional, physical problems that owners go through. They detach themselves from that business, and they find that they have nowhere to go the next morning.
Well, that really surprised me because most people say, I've sold my business, I'm done, I'm heading to retirement without a plan.
Big mistake. I had one owner tell me he didn't take a shower for a week. He had nowhere to go. He walked around the house aimlessly without showering, without shaving, in his boxer shorts until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock every afternoon. He was out of his zone.
He had nothing to do. He had no disciplines, no hobbies, he didn't want to see anything. He didn't want to go anywhere.
His hobby, his discipline, his passion was the business. And his wife told me, I married him for dinner, not breakfast and lunch. Find somewhere for him to go.
Well, what about when I'm doing transitions that are inside or whether it's my children or related employees? This issue of really establishing and making sure that the owners in my company can work this business without me.
I've got to transition myself out of the day-to-day, grow it without me, begin to get them to think like owners because they don't. Mm-hmm. The insiders do not think like owners generally, and they very rarely have cash. Find the cash because they have none.
That probably is a huge issue.
Huge.
What about delegation? I mean, you don't want to create a civil war and infighting among employees, but how do you delegate? Who's going to do what?
You got to pick the right person, and more importantly, the cart's before the horse. You have to psychologically, as the owner, Steve, be prepared to delegate. Most aren't.
They don't confront, do we?
They don't give up control.
So the business owner, even though he sold it, he wants to still try to come back in some way and control it?
I had a business owner told me after he sold his company, he took his wife's car and went back and stalked the business. He would drive through the parking lot in the afternoon just to see what was going on, hoping no one recognized him. He couldn't turn it off.
Unreal. If you want more information on the Blueprints for Tomorrow or a free evaluation from one of our top strategic business partners, just email me at steve@thenameofthegame.tv. When we come back from the break, Nate's going to walk us through the basic execution steps of business succession planning using the Blueprints for Tomorrow. And don't forget to take Nate's business survey. Just go out to www.blueprintsfortomorrow.com/sellability score. The survey will take about 13 minutes. Is your business worth 13 minutes? I bet it is. We'll be right back from the break.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of Index Universal Life, Ash Brokerage.
Welcome back to The Name of the Game. I'm Steve Savant with Nate Sachs, founder of the Blueprints for Tomorrow. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas you hear on our show, always consult your tax advisor or your legal counsel. Coming up in the E segment, we're going to help you execute the next steps in business succession planning with the Blueprints for Tomorrow. In our E segment, we're talking about next steps. How do we execute a plan like this? This is where people struggle. We go, hey, I heard what you said. I'm interested. I went out to your site. And by the way, a site that I want to mention of Nate's is balanceindicator.com. Why is that out there?
It's an electronic scorecard. If they'll answer 10 very poignant questions they probably not asked themselves or been asked before, it'll give them a 10 or 11 page report showing them exactly where they've lost balance and how to regain it.
A 10-page report of just a couple questions of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's walk through each one. Tell me the first question.
Am I working in my business or am I working on my business? Most will say I'm working in it, not on it, or at least not both. But very few will say I'm working on it.
And about this second one, it says, I feel like I take care of everyone but myself.
I take care of my employees, my vendors, my customers, not me. I'm the last on.
And really, for the betterment of the business, we should be paying ourselves first.
I'm told I'm the first one in the morning, I'm the last one out in the afternoon. I haven't had a raise or a vacation in 2 years. That's the plight of an owner today.
What about this third one? This sounds like a major fear of a lot of business owners.
I lay awake in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning staring at the bedroom ceiling, or I sleep like a baby. A guy just told me a couple hours ago.
There's no in between.
Well, no, a guy just told me a couple hours ago, I sleep like a baby. And his wife said, yeah, with pills.
Oh. Does a business owner, do they actually worry about their family's security?
All the time. Have I provided security for my family or have I not provided? I'm worried about it.
Little gender question here, though. Do you think men actually convey that to their wives?
Men will convey it to me. They will not convey it to their wives.
Do you think if their wives heard that they were really concerned about their financial security, she would receive that as his concern for them?
If their wives understood sometimes how fragile their financial security were, they'd be very nervous. I asked the owner, what you've left her Could you live off of the rest of your life?
How fragile are our small business owners?
80% of all businesses, I said in a past segment, Steve, will die a natural death without anybody receiving a penny for that business. That's fragile.
Why do they always talk about how they feel like they don't have a clear plan? So many advisors are always knocking at their door, trying to get in there to talk about them. And then one of the great fears, one of your big top 10 here is, they don't even feel like they have a plan.
Because most advisors put them in what I call priority paralysis. Throw so many things at them, they feel like they're drinking water of a fire hose. So instead of choosing to do something, they choose to do nothing.
What's the difference in having a lifestyle but not having a life?
It's whether you control the business or it controls you. A lot of my business owners say, you know what, I'm making a living, but I'm not making a life.
When I think about the time we spend, you talk about it in one of your top ones on the top here about appropriate time. What is appropriate time for a business owner?
Business owners should figure out the 2 or 3 things they do really, really uniquely well, Steve, that drive profit to the company and get rid of all the rest.
Do you think they feel like they take care of themselves and the people closest to them?
They feel like they take care of it but themselves.
And what about when I'm thinking about, I want to make that transition. I'm willing to become more of a passive person in this regard. I'm willing to disconnect myself as the franchise of the business. Does that, how hard is that?
A lot harder than you think. That's who they are. That's who they've been for so many years. They don't know how not to be.
If I'm coming and I want to go through your blueprint as a client,
yes,
what's the first contact issue?
First thing we would do is I'd send you a book. Let you read the book. Give you some ideas at no cost. Then I'd get together, if I could, I'd ask you some good questions. Why are they good questions? Because they've got difficult answers. Not financial questions, heart and soul. I want to know, what are the demons chasing you around that room at 2 o'clock in the morning?
I've noticed that when I read many of your questions and your first contact when you're talking to a business owner, you sound more like a psychologist than you do a financial advisor.
It's very lonely to be in business today, Steve. You have no one to talk to. You can't talk to your employees. You can't talk to your vendors. You can't talk to your customers. We still lie to our competitors. You don't want to burden your family. So it's lonely. They want someone to talk to.
When you go ahead and conclude with a person, there's sometimes you just know that they won't change and you can't really help them.
I've told them, the line I'll say to them, not often, but it does happen, when you're ready to work on your business instead of just in it, give me a call.
And sometimes you just have to let them walk.
Exactly right. They've got to want to do it more than I've got to want them to do it.
When I think about our age group, baby boomers, we've had...
You're older than I am.
Well, we're still in the same baby boomer generation.
2 years, that's right.
But the reason I bring that up is because it seems like every succeeding generation, until it came to us, we've really been prospering every generation a little bit better. But what we're bequeathing to our children, that may not happen this time in the next generation. How important is that for a business owner?
It's major. Economists tell us we're the first generation of Americans that are not producing children that will do as well as we've done. Every generation has outdone their parents. This one will not. Understand, all these problems we've been discussing, those are the problems that are created by that boldness, that brashness, that bulletproof mentality of a business owner that makes him such a great business owner. He's not going to die. He's not going to retire. He's not going to become disabled. He'll never need any of these things taken care of because he can take care of them himself. Not true.
Well, remember, I want to send you any of these, some of these examples and really walk you through some of the very questions we're talking about. You can write me at steve@thenameofthegame.tv. I'm happy to do so. Nate, when we're talking about this, it really makes me feel like we've turned a different page in attacking small business and the transition. I think it's a whole new way of lighting on it. I really appreciate you being here.
My honor. Thank you.
You bet. Well, that's our show for today. I want to thank Nate Sachs for being my special guest and today's Money Mentor. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or just email me, steve@thenameofthegame.tv. And don't forget what the good Reverend John Wesley once said, make all you can, save all you can, give all you can. I'm Steve Savant.